Yo, what's up, everybody? Check us the goat. We are in for a doozy on this one. I don't even know how else to say it, dude. I just gotta film it and just go off top because like I got papers everywhere right now, just notes all over it. I'm looking on the interwebs, and this is going to be the first part of a hopefully 3-part about the Triad and their specific demons and who they are and who they are not. And some possibilities that will go along with it. So I hope you're ready because we're about to dive into the rabbit hole once again here at OATz the Goat's channel. And here we go.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Pull up, say what's the deal, bruh? See how I lose my cool any second if they don't hear us. Many people will fear us. Say when you look in the mirror, don't you compare us to anything, they get embarrassed. Ha, ha, woo. So many people be talking like they want the problems or something. I noticed that all of you polish and all of you people get punished. It's hard to keep food on your stomach, to all of the hustle keep running. That's hard to stay humble with nothing. We're off of the jungle, we're bugging. So let me come down all of a sudden. I told you that we keep it buzzing. Ha, woo. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Welcome back. So, in this video, we're going to talk about Megicula and who Megicula is as far as lore goes. So, I was just to preface everything and why I'm doing this super late, like, who the Triad is and blah, 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 is to further define their demons and the roles that they play and the roles that they will play later on. And what some of them may have to do with some past events. This one might be the most in-depth video out of the 3, and I'm glad I'm doing it now. I'm going to make it as short and concise as possible because I want it to be digestible and I want to keep it interesting as well. So I don't want to just drag this out for too long. So I'm going to get started. So let's first start this off with, I completely overlooked what a triad actually is when we were referring to the Sephiroth and the Qliphoth. Now, I'm going to do some really cool magic and put up the tree here and show you that the Sephiroth is the tree of life and the Qliphoth, of course, is the tree of death. So, the Qliphoth is the reflections of the tree of life, as we should already know, right? So, whatever that represents, the perverted sense of it is the demon that resides in Qliphoth. Okay, with that out of the way, let's take a look at the First Triad. Now, the Triads are the clips that run straight down the middle of both the Sephiroth tree and the tree of Qliphoth. And think of it as a triangle. So the point would be a triad, first, second, or third. There's only 3. And I know there's a part that overlaps in the tree. That's not a triad. That's probably a different video in itself right there. And I don't want to do all that. So let's keep it just Megicula. So Megicula, I think, is best described by the obscene ones who reside in the Qliphoth of Gamaliel. I'm sorry, I got to look at my notes, and some of these names are hard to pronounce. So you're going to see me looking down a lot. And this is the first of the Triad in Qliphoth. Now, the Gamaliel have a destructive sense of fertility, a sexual urge which is never satisfied but always demanding stronger stimuli. I think we can all guess that Lilith is the main demon that resides there. Now, as I'm doing more research on Lilith, I came up with a theory before I started doing more research on Lilith. And Lilith's story was pretty straightforward until I started digging a little deeper. And there are so many articulations of this character. It's not even funny, but I tried to pick out the similarities in each of the culture's renditions of this demon. And one thing is for sure is that Lilith, when I thought that it was the popular belief that she was, well, a woman, have her labeled as androgynous, as being, could be a hermaphrodite or just straight up turning into a Lilith, which is the male version of a demon Lilith, or a woman, which would be Lilith. So this really opened up a lot of possibilities for this theory, because I only had one way to go with this, and now it looks like it could explain a whole lot. I just want to read this, and then I'm going to get into some of the creation stories of Lilith that I found kind of interesting. So this description specifically states, the more general idea of this clip-off is any act of creation which is not based on an intention of beauty fails to create a creature of beauty. So I want you to keep that in mind. And this will go into, like, the crackhead Jack theory, or theories that I have about Megicula and his and her role in this. So I just want to state that this definitely does fit Megicula and Vonnegutt's character. I bring Vonnegut into this for a reason. So they have Lilith in this situation, or Megicula also, if we're going to parallel this, has a sexual urge that can never be satisfied. And without getting too graphic, a man and a woman do this, and there's no other way to be closer to somebody than sharing a body with them. So I think it's almost purposeful that, Megicula is like, hey, I'm going to share a body with you. This probably provides, like, another level of ecstasy for Megicula for whatever reason. Okay, I'm just going to get off that subject, but we're going to talk a little more about, the birds and the bees. So anyway, so Lilith believed God created her to afflict babies with fatal diseases. That's what she believed. And that's what she carried on to do. She ended up leaving Adam's side, and I kind of skipped a little bit, but if you don't know, Lilith was supposed to be Adam's first wife. And then she fled because they had some, sexual disagreements. She believed that she should have been on top, but Adam wanted to be on top. It really, graphic stuff, but, religion's kind of weird. So, so she flew off to go wreak havoc on humans in other cities. So Lilith flies away from Adam, and God sends 3 angels to go retrieve her forcefully to stay Adam's wife. And when the 3 angels catch up to Lilith, they strike this really weird deal, saying, where Lilith just goes like, you know what? I'm not going to harm any babies if they have an amulet with your 3 names on it. I won't do it. And there's a more specific version. I believe it's like, if it's a boy, she won't harm it for like 6 to 8 days, or after the 6th or 8th day. And if it's a girl, she has up to 12 days to do something. And if they reach after, the 8 and 12 mark, she can't mess with them after that. That was just another one I wanted to throw in there. But I thought it was really interesting that it was included that if they wear an amulet with the 3 angels' names on it, that she won't mess with them. And we do see Yuno with an amulet, but it does have 4 stars and 4 points. So I don't know what this amulet looked like, and I don't know if it's going to refer to that later on. But I do think that was really interesting, especially with this theory that I have coming up. So I wanted to read the Greek version of Lilith. I think this has a lot going for us, and kind of goes into like the theory about the gray that I talked about. And I wonder if this could possibly be one of the sisters. But like I said in that video, those 3 sisters, or 2 in the more popular version, aren't really fleshed out too well, except for Enyo, because she has a separate identity as the god of war, the goddess of war. But let me just read this to you. So it's saying that Lilith was described as having a human upper body from the waist up and a serpentine body from the waist down. So if you remember from the gray video that I posted about her, you know that the eye that they share gets caught in transition by Perseus, and Perseus uses it as a bargaining chip to get them to tell them where Medusa lies and how he can defeat her. So I think that's funny because we know Medusa is exactly this description. She's got a serpentine lower body with a human upper body. Coincidence? I think not. All right, let's keep going. So before this being becomes like what she ends up being, which is like a vampiric being, what drove her to this madness was that all of her babies ended up being killed by someone, irrelevant person. But she then goes on to like devour babies and develop offspring that also devour babies. So then we have these just like demons running about stealing and eating babies, and it's all weird. It says she was notorious for being a vampiric spirit and loved sucking men's blood, which I also think is interesting considering that Megicula is in a body with Vonica, who has blood magic. All right, so pretty interesting to me. Her gift was the mark of Sibyl, a gift of second sight. Zeus was said to have given her the gift of sight. However, she was cursed to never be able to shut her eyes, so that she would forever obsess over her dead children. Taking pity on Lamia is the name they give her in the Greek terms. Taking pity on Lamia, Zeus gave her the ability to remove and replace her eyes from their sockets. Tell me that doesn't sound like what's going on right now. So we have Vonica with an eye patch. And it's like, why does she wear an eye patch? She clearly has an eye. And the fact of the matter is it could be the fact that she can't close her eye because it's Megicula's eye. And if Megicula is this person that they're describing right now, she's cursed to never be able to open or close her eyes again so that she'd obsess over her children. Okay. Now, you're probably going like, what children does Megicula have to obsess over? You're stupid. Oh, I got some juice for you. Okay, so listen to me. Listen. This is Jack Oates ASMR crackhead theories right now. So, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. That's so weird. But I'm definitely rolling with the theory that Lilith is probably androgynous, if not just a male. But, okay, let's talk about some of the physical characteristics that we do see Megicula with. Well, let's just talk about one. This silvery white hair that we see Megicula have. Now, this is not a regular demonic trait at all. All the demons that we've seen so far, and I'm not counting Lilith because Lilith is not full-on demon, and that's probably another video in and of itself. God, I need to start getting paid for that. No, I'm just kidding. So, okay, look. So, yeah, I'm not going to count Lilith on this because, like I said, in my personal beliefs, I don't think Lilith is full-on demon. So I'm going to leave it at that. But if we look at Zagrid, we've seen Lucifero, well, at least the Shadow, and none of them have had white hair. It's been black hair so far. So it's a really special trait that we've seen out of demons so far. And if we take this, I keep mixing up the names. There's so many, and I'm thinking about other videos I'm going to do too. So I'm going to be mixing up some names. So you got to forgive me. If we think about Lilith having this, having a bunch of babies. Oh man, you know what? I got to go back up. Hold up. Okay, this is going to be like a really condensed, like short version of this, but this is the Kabbalistic version of this, which is probably more of what Spada is drawing from, since we do have like the Tree of Qliphoth, which is in the Cabal. So let me just read this. It's a little long, but it says, the blind dragon rides Lilith the sinful. If you know what I mean. So the blind dragon is called Samael, and Samael is actually in Qliphoth. He's a fallen angel. He resides in a lower realm of Qliphoth than Lilith does, but I'll keep going. It says, and this blind dragon brings about the union between Samael and Lilith, and just as the dragon that is in the sea has no eyes, likewise blind dragon that is above in the likeness of a spiritual form is without eyes, that is to say, without colors. Samael is called the slant serpent, and Lilith is called the torturous serpent. So I just want to note that in both the Greco-Roman lore and the Kabbalistic lore, they do refer to Lilith as serpentine. Let's keep going. So it says the marriage of Samael and Lilith is known as Angel Satan or the other god. But it was not allowed to last. To prevent Lilith and Samael's demonic children, Lilin, from filling the world, God castrated Samael In many 17th century Kabbalistic books, this seems to be a reinterpretation of an old Talmudic myth where God castrated the male Leviathan and slew the female Leviathan in order to prevent them from coming out. That's not really Kabbalistic. It was just a side note. Anyway, with Lilith being unable to fornicate with Samael anymore, she sought to couple with men who experienced nocturnal emission. That's a little too much information. A 15th or 16th century Kabbalah text states that God has cooled the female Leviathan, meaning that he has made Lilith infertile and she is a mere fornication. So imagine that someone, if this is Megicula, imagine someone taking this ability of having children away from her. It would give her more of a reason to start toying with human babies because they are allowed to do something she's no longer allowed to do. So I want to go to that stone tablet that Noct has in that little shadow realm in his house where it has like this goat. Oh my gosh, almost forgot. There's this passage, but there's a goat. There's like this owl and some other weird looking thing. They all have wings. I think the goat has wings too. Kind of looks like the Baphomet. Which is interesting because the Baphomet actually resembles, equilibrium. He's got coagulation on one arm and he's got solution on the other, which is an equilibrium of existence and whatnot. A result of Lilith breeding with humans and creating these things that would later become demons because they were cast out of the world of the living. So there's a passage. And this is, I believe, King James, maybe? Isa 34:14. It says, "The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place of rest." Which I think it's interesting that they use satyr and screech owl, because satyr would be like I just said it, like the goat thing that we saw. And screech owl, pretty self-explanatory, and we do see an owl there. But they also call it Yan Soup, which is a water bird, and we're going to get into that. And then we have Kipos, which is properly known as a snake. Not sure what to do with that yet, but Am I getting into the thing? I'm going to get into the thing already. So let's say Megicula is out here making all these babies, right? At some point before, she was no longer allowed, or he, or both. There's probably a point in time where Megicula went out, did some, some hanky-panky, a little smashing, a little thrashing, a little door dashing, and created some beings that were not exactly human. Okay, so I'm first. Look, we were talking about the white hair. Okay, the silvery white hair, and I'm stretched the silver for a reason. We see that Noelle was able to damage Vonica and Megicula. She shouldn't be able to because she's not an arcane mage. But Vonica also says something interesting too. She says that Asier also put up a good fight. But how can anyone put up a good fight against someone who is hosting a demon or is a demon and isn't arcane? So things weren't adding up. And the only thing special about them is the fact that they seem to be in this Valkyrie lineage. Which brings me to this point, is that maybe at some point before Asier, Megicula had created this silver-haired clan of the Silvas, honestly. And some of them carried on this Valkyrie lineage, which came from Megicula not being fully, human. So I kind of say this in the video where I talk about her being the Grey, where I say this could be a fated battle, and I think this is a case of chickens coming home to roost. It would be utterly ironic for Megicula to create something like this and then be taken down by it in the same respect. That's called chickens coming home to roost for sure. Now, that's the one I just came up with. The one that I've been sitting on since this most recent chapter is that Megicula had something to do with As's creation. And I did say this a little over 5 months ago, is that I'm anticipating Megicula hearing about Asta and the AMD. And I think it's going to be interesting because I do think if Megicula turns out to be a shapeshifter, whether Megicula can be a man or a woman, possibly got with this woman who could be Asta's mom. I put it in quotes because I don't necessarily believe that. She looks really, really, really young. So I don't know if I go with that yet. But it is possible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just don't want to like confirm it because we don't really have that. It could be like his sister. Who knows? But anyway, if that's his mom and she does get with Megicula, who happens to be a man, and I only say this because she specifically states that she takes life and mana from people. Like, she can't be around them. And I don't believe that this was, something she was like born with, because if that was the case, she was never around anyone, which would mean she would be abandoned as a kid, and there's no way she'd make it to be an adult. So I do believe that her magic actually changed because she got cursed. And the really only cursed thing that I can think of is Megicula. So I think that, they did the dirty. Megicula probably ended up cursing Asta's mother, and her magic shifted into what it is now, just like Charlotte's magic was said by her to have shifted. Briar magic is not her magic. It changed when she was 18. So I believe it's a similar instance, and if Megicula is not exactly Asta's parent, Asta and his mother fell victim to the whole Lilith thing of, well, he's not wearing this amulet, I get to tamper with this kid. But I do want to go back to that quote that I said earlier where it says, the more general idea of this clip-off is any act of creation which is not based on an intention of creating beauty fails to create a creature of beauty. And if we look at Asta, he has no mana, he's muscular, he seems to have been naturally muscular as well. He's short, no one really liked him because he had no mana and it's unattractive. His whole entire being is unattractive. So I feel like there are the connections right there. And it could lead into why he has no mana either. He probably did fall victim to Megicula. Look, I'm just trying to theorize, you guys, but there's so much lore behind this. This could be worth a second video, but I want you guys to tell me what you think about this. I don't want to make it any longer than it already is. Glad you stuck around. Tabata's going off in these chapters, but stick around for part 2 and part 3 of this, and there's probably going to be a part 4 point or 3.3 because something happened and I'm not happy about it. But this has been Jackos the Goat. Subscribe on Twitter, follow on YouTube. Did I say subscribe on Twitter, follow on YouTube? Do the other thing, or just don't do either of them. I messed it up. Don't do anything. I don't deserve it, but at least like the video or dislike it. So this has been Jackos the Goat. You either know or you don't.